Okay guys, as promised, I told y'all I'd be back and I did just that. I am coming back a lot later than I anticipated. Really did not mean to not upload anything in January, but you know, things happen, but we're here. Okay, so happy February. And most importantly, happy Black History Month, okay? Because in case you didn't notice, we're Black around here. Yeah, we are. But anyways, because I missed out on January, I'm going to be combining what I should have uploaded in January with what I will be uploading in February. So this video is going to be a two-parter. First part is going to be a what I read in January, and the second part is going to be my February TBR. So regarding the February TBR, because it's Black History Month, I wanted to obviously honor my Black creators, my Black authors, and so I wanted to read only books written by Black authors. But I also, you know, Valentine's Day is in February, so I really wanted to get into the romantic mood, and also, for some reason, romance books are the books that I read the fastest. So for February, my TBR is going to be romances written by Black authors. Anyways, let's just get into the video. Okay, so for the first part regarding my January books that I read, it's gonna be a very short section because I only read 2 books. And technically, both of these books I was already reading in 2022. I just took a break from them and decided to start reading them again in the new year. And so technically, I didn't really finish any books from start to finish in January. But anyways, we're gonna move past that, okay? I'm still on my reading journey. And so I only finished 2 books. The first book was Ring Shout, which if you follow me on TikTok, you'll know I have been posting about this book a lot. Like, I've been hyping this book up. And the other book, which I read digitally on my Kindle, which is called The Roommate. It is a romance book. So I'm gonna get into them. They're both very different books and books that I rated quite differently. So let's start with the first book that I finished, which is Ring Shout. Now listen, if you are the type of person that really wants to reach a pretty high goal for 2023 in terms of the amount of books you want to read, definitely pick this up because it is a very short book. It's a novella. I think it was 180 pages. Yeah, it is 184. Well, no, that's the acknowledgements. It's 181 pages. So I'm pretty sure some of you guys can read this in like one sitting. But this book is definitely a fast-paced book. Like, once you get into it, you cannot put it down. And again, also a cool book to read in February because it's written by a Black author. And let me just get into the plot. So this book takes place in Macon, Georgia in 1917, I believe. And it starts off with 3 women who are hunters. And what do they hunt? Well, as you can see from the cover, they hunt creatures called Ku Kluxes. And yeah, you're not hearing things. Ku Kluxes are what you think they are. They are monsters created from Ku Klux Klan members. And the really interesting thing about this book is that these creatures are birthed from the movie The Birth of a Nation. Yes, that movie. Okay, you didn't hear incorrectly. We're talking about The Birth of a Nation, and that's what I find so interesting about this book. Like, I think it's so cool that they're able to take a movie that is so despicable in American film history and turn it into a plot device for the book. And essentially, these Ku Klux creatures are birthed from the hatred, the pure hatred of these Ku Klux Klan members. And that kind of brings you on to the main idea behind this novel. It's just like how dangerous of a weapon hatred is. So like I said before, you follow these 3 ladies and they are like the most badass group of hunters. They also are like really fun to read. Again, if you're looking for a book that has really strong female-led characters, definitely pick this up as well. I just think that the characters are so unique in their own right, but they have great chemistry with each other, so you really enjoy reading them together. And despite the fact that this book is quite heavy in its subject matter and also like really intense, it's also very funny. Like the interactions between the 3 main girls is some of the like funnest I've had while reading a book. I literally laughed out loud. I laughed out loud while reading this. And I think especially for Black readers, you will definitely enjoy reading this book. So I also want to touch on the action real quick in this. I don't think I mentioned it yet, but this is a historical fiction, fantasy, horror novel. Although for some reason I was thinking this was sci-fi. I guess I don't really know my genres yet. But if you're interested in fantasy and horror, especially horror, this will be a great book for you. And the action scenes in this book are so well done. It feels like I was watching a movie. And it, again, is very action-packed and very quick. And I think anyone that enjoys reading fighting scenes and stuff like that will definitely enjoy reading this. Out of all of the things I could say about how entertaining this book is, I do want to bring home the point that this is a very deep and heavy book. It touches on some very serious subject matter, and so I do think this book is also very emotional, especially for Black readers. And it touches on, you know, our history, our you know, ancestors, and the fact that they were enslaved, and then just the fact that even after we were free, we had to deal with so much animosity and hatred, pure hatred for no reason. And so you kind of follow the main character, Maurice, in her journey of trying to, you know, grapple with the fact that she's so angry over what happened to her family, but also wanting to move forward for her and her community and, you know, all of her friends. And it really is a journey. It really is a huge journey. And I think it's so well written that I could totally feel sympathy for all these characters. And so, again, pick this book up. If there's one book in this list that I want you to pick up, it's definitely this one. There's no reason why you shouldn't. Honestly, there's no reason. Seriously, guys, look how much I tabbed this. Like, this is a 180-page book, and I tabbed it this much. It's crazy. But yes, and if you guys were wondering, I did rate this a 5-star. It is my first book I read in 2023, and the fact that my first book is a 5-star read, I feel like I won. I feel like I won a little bit. Okay, guys, so let's now move on to the second and final book in this January list, and it is a book, again, that I read on my Kindle, and it is very different than Ring Shout, and it is a romance, and it's called The Roommates. And so this book, I feel like, was kind of hyped up a lot on Book Talk and BookTube, and so I had a lot of high expectations for this book, and I'm sad to say it didn't really meet my expectations, but at the same time, I can't say I didn't enjoy reading it for the most part. What is the book about? Let me get into that first. So The Roommate is about this woman named Clara Wheaton, and she comes from a family of really rich socialites, but she herself is kind of a goody two-shoes, so she doesn't really have any, you know, crazy reputation like the rest of her family, and she also doesn't really feel like she has her own sense of self. So when her friend, that is also her like lifelong crush, asks her to move in with him, she jumps at the chance, right? Unfortunately, things don't go the way she planned, and she ends up being left alone with this other guy that her friend rented the house out to. So her and this complete stranger are basically living in this house by themselves together. Now, what's interesting about this stranger that she's living with is that he is an adult star, if you know what I mean. And so because of his line of work and, you know, how he makes his money, that is something that's very pearl-clutchingly shocking for Clara. But because, you know, he's more than just his job, they're able to build a really strong connection and become friends and possibly something more. And regarding the spicy scenes in this book, of course, you know, like a book like this, there's going to be quite a few spicy scenes, and there were. And I'm not going to say they let me down. They were pretty good. But I also felt like that was the strongest part of the whole romantic connection with the two. There was another part of this book that I like, I'll get into in a second, but when it comes to the romance and the relationship, I felt like the author was putting more effort behind the sexual chemistry between the two as opposed to like the actual deeper connection. And there were moments where they were trying to get there, and like you can tell that the author was trying to build a strong connection between these two, but it just didn't feel like authentic or real, because anytime that one of the two were trying to get serious, they kept on bringing back the fact that they just enjoyed the sex so much. And I just was like, okay, can we bring something more deeper here? And it felt like anytime they were getting serious or having a deeper conversation or having a deeper, you know, inner monologue about how they felt about the other person, somehow sex kept being brought back up. And I'm just like, geez, after a while you just get like, what else is there? What else is there? And at first I wasn't too annoyed by that. I thought maybe towards the end of this book, they'll completely change that and they'll stop mentioning the sex, and then like it'll actually be about a deeper connection. But I would say like the last, I don't know, the last few chapters really let me down because this is just personal taste. I hate public displays of like appreciation, call me the Grinch, but like any public confession, I find that so embarrassing. And a spoiler, I guess, there was a huge public confession towards the end of this book, and I just found it so cringe that I literally was reading it quickly just to move past it. I was speed reading. I'm like, please don't be doing this right now. And it was in the most public way possible. That it's so unbelievable. Like, is that really happening right now? And then after the very public confession that was incredibly awkward, they have public sex in the corridor of the radio station. I'm like, you guys just announced to each other that you feel very deeply about one another, and you do that publicly, so there's no way to really get that deep as you would want. And then you follow that up with like a really weirdly placed sex scene. I'm just like, what is this? It was very disappointing, and honestly, it made me bump it down a point. So I moved it to a 2.5. That is my final rating for this book. Now, why it's not like a 1 or a 2 is because there are parts of this book that I was actually pleasantly surprised by. So when it came to Josh, that's the character's name of the guy in the relationship. He's the one that is the adult worker. His whole storyline and backstory is actually quite interesting and very sad. But when you realize how little control he has over his career and how manipulative and just disgusting his management is in the adult industry world, you start really becoming interested in reading about that instead. Like, I felt like I was more intrigued by that part of the story after a while because the romance just wasn't going anywhere. And I feel like the author had a lot she actually wanted to say about the adult film industry, and I was, really intrigued by that. And so the story does touch upon like sexism and abuse in the industry, as well as like the sliminess behind it all. And I found that really cool to read about, especially from the male's perspective, because you don't really get that a whole lot. But again, it felt really rushed towards the end. So that is why I gave this a 2.5. I will say though, I did put this down for a long period of time in 2022 and strongly did consider DNFing it. I don't think I just was a fan of the writing at first. It took some getting used to. And I also found Clara as a character to be very unrelatable. I mean, we're talking about a rich socialite here, so of course there is some parts of her that you can't relate to. It's almost like, girl, quit complaining, But after a while, you just kind of like enjoy it for what it is, right? And if it wasn't for how quick and rushed that finale, the last few chapters felt, this might have been a 3-point book. But unfortunately, it's just a 2.5 star for me. Okay, now we are in the second section of this video, which is about my February TBR. I already know it's February, so I'm kind of late on this, but you're gonna watch it anyway. Anyways, for February, like I said before in the beginning of the video, I'm going to be reading romance books written by Black authors, and so that is what I have here. Now, and if you don't know me, which you probably don't because I only uploaded 2 videos on this channel so far, I'm a slow reader. I said it on my TikTok account, saying it here. I'm a slow reader and I'm also a mood reader. So because I'm so slow at reading, I know I'm only like going to get to maybe 2, possibly 3 books in February. But I also know that because I'm a mood reader, sometimes I just don't feel like reading, period. But also there's some times where I don't feel like reading like a certain genre. So I'm hoping I feel like reading romance all of February, but it could change. Anyways, I'm going to show you the 3 books that I did choose for February. So the first book that I chose is the book that I'm most excited about, and the book that I actually started reading a little bit of, and it is Real by Kennedy Ryan. And let me tell you guys, I already started reading this, and this is probably like a book I'm going to be obsessed with. Like, I can already tell this is a 5-star read for me. But I think I also have like a biasness towards this book because it's regarding a plot and like an environment that I'm already interested in, which is entertainment. So let me get into the plot of this book. So So this book centers a director who is pretty well renowned, I would say very successful, named Kanan, and a aspiring actress named Neva who, you know, she has like had a few roles here and there, like background roles. But in the beginning of this book, she's starting off as an understudy actress on Broadway. And essentially, this director sees her perform and is like enamored by her and wants her in his movie. And this movie is like a Harlem Renaissance film. So I think it's a historical piece, but I'm not totally sure. I haven't got to that part yet. It is a modern day book, just so there's no confusion there. So he casts her in the film as a lead actress, and apparently this book contains like so many scandals, forbidden romance. I mean, it's Hollywood, so you really can expect nothing less. And I'm very excited for that. Okay, I love drama. And when I was reading this, I was like, this kind of might be like a similar experience that I had to watching Hollywood on Netflix. If you watch Hollywood on Netflix, it's really dramatic, but it's so well done. And so, like I said before, I've already started reading some of this, and I'm already a fan of her writing. I think this is so well written, and this is this is two point of views, from Neva's point of view and from Kanan's point of view. And they're two very different characters, and what I like about the writing is that she makes you know that these are different characters. She writes them from a different perspective and kind of changes the writing style a bit. And not that other writers can't write like multiple point of views well, but I think it takes a really talented writer to write point of views very differently, that you can just tell this is a different character and not just the writer deciding which character she wants to choose for that chapter. You know, with Kanan, his character is really like deep. His character has gone through a lot with his mother. You see in the prologue that he is about to lose her. And so he's also gone through a lot of drama regarding his career and his past film. And you just kind of get the sense of wisdom from his character, but also nihilation maybe. He's kind of negative and a bit down in the dumps. But that's kind of what makes his character so real. On the flip side, you have Neva, whose character is a bit more, I guess, energetic, a bit more hopeful for her career. She also has some anger, fire built up in her because of what happens in her prologue. I don't even know if I want to mention it here because it's very shocking, but if you were in her place, you would be upset too. So again, I'm really loving this book so far. It is a pretty nice sized book. It's 400 pages, a little bit more. And I think that this is going to be a book, despite how like big this book is for me, I think I'm going to read it quite quickly. Yeah, so that is real. So next up for February, we have a book that I'm pretty sure many of you watching have already read or plan to read, and that is Take a Hit, Dani Brown by Talia Hibbert. And let me tell you, the Brown Sisters trilogy, that's always gonna hit. Okay, I've already read the first and second, or technically it was the third book. For some reason, I skipped the second book. This is the second book. So I already read the other two books in this trilogy, and I was a huge fan. I love the writing, and I think it's just like a really fun, lighthearted romance with a lot of also deep and serious conversations mixed in. So I haven't read this book yet, but I do know a little bit about what it's about. So we have Dani here, who I would consider like the most free-spirited out of her sisters. She's like just the type of person that does what she wants and is very like unique. And she really doesn't want any romance. Been there, done that. She just wants a friend with benefits. And so she's asking the universe to give her one. And what happens is at her work, and mind you, she's a very successful woman, this guy named Zaf saves her in a fire drill. And when he saves her in that fire drill, it just so happens that it was videotaped and it goes viral online. And in doing so, it really helps his whole like sports career situation. But also it kind of shows to Dani here that this might be the guy she's looking for. And so I don't really know a whole lot after that, but I do know they form some sort of connection, and you know, he's trying to win her over to like make her realize, hey, I'm more than just a friend with benefits. And she's like realizing, oh shoot, he might just be the real deal. Oh my God, I almost forgot to mention this, fake dating. If you guys are into tropes, this is a fake dating trope. After the viral video happens, they decide to start fake dating for the sake of his sports career situation. Again, I don't really know what's going on with that. But yeah, that is a trope in this book. And I've never read fake dating before, but I am excited to start with Talia Hibbert because, again, if she gonna write a trope, she gonna write it down. She knows how to write a good trope. So anyways, I don't expect anything less from Talia Hibbert's writing. I've always been a fan of her. I just know this is gonna be a really fun time, and I am probably going to have some like really deep conversations at certain parts in this book. But I am excited to read this, and when it comes to Talia Hibbert's books, I do read them quite fast. So again, I think this is going to be a pretty quick read for me. Okay, so the third and final book in my February TBR is a book I will be reading digitally on my Kindle. And also I am getting the audiobook from Libby. If you don't have the Libby app, please get it. It's free if you have your library card. So the audiobook's on that. But it is called Honey and Spice. And I don't really know a whole lot about this one. It's just kind of like a last minute edition. But this is a book that I've seen a lot on TikTok, and I just wanted to read it just so I can, know what the whole situation's about. And so what I do know is that this book is about this woman named Kiki. She has her own radio show. I believe it's called Brown Sugar. So she has this radio show called Brown Sugar, and she's giving all of the white, black students advice, and a lot of the advice she gives is about like men and dating. And so in this radio show, she tells all of the listeners that this guy named Malachi is like a Casanova. He's like, he uses women, he's not someone that you want to get into a serious relationship with. And then it just so happens that at a party, they just end up get caught making out. And so now she's like having to both make him look good because she just told everybody to steer clear of this guy, and now she's caught with him. So they have to kind of fix his reputation. And so in doing that, they are fake dating, another fake dating trope. And also she's trying to gain the trust back. Like everyone's like, girl, didn't you just say this guy can't be trusted and you're with him? So a very fun situation. Again, this is another fake dating trope, but I think this might be a trope I like reading about. Not one of those annoying tropes like, unplanned pregnancy. If you like reading those, hey, no hate to you. A little bit strange, but no hate to you. Anyways, again, I'm pretty excited to read this book because it is quite like well rated. But what I like about reading this is that it's from a debut author. This is her first book. Her name is Bolu Babalola. And so again, support your Black authors, guys. And that will conclude my February TBR. Now, I did have another book that's romance that centers a Black character that I really wanted to finish reading. Magnolia Parks, but boy, this book is big. Okay, so realistically, I'm not gonna end up finishing this, and I don't think this is written by a Black author either. So, anyways, I'm just letting you know that's also what I'm like planning on reading sometime in the next few months. Anyways, that is the end of this video. Those are the books that I read in January, and these are the books that I'm planning to read in February. Will I get to all of these books in February? We can only hope. We can only hope. If I can get to one, that'll be good. I do think, strongly believe that I will be getting at least Real finished, and probably if I finish Real, then I can hurry up and finish Take a Hint, Dani Brown. But we don't know. We don't know yet. Anyways, if you enjoyed this little short video, please comment what books you plan to read in February, what books you read in January that you really liked or didn't like. Also, subscribe. I promise I'll be back. I promise. So anyways, with that, I'm going to catch you guys later. And I promise I'll be back soon. Bye.
I never understood why somebody would just hate you for no reason. You don't even know the person.